Bye-bye.
Welcome, friends, from all over the world. I'm Flávio Battaglia, director of the Lean Institute Brazil, and I would like to welcome you to this very, very special session, tackling the pandemic with lean thinking and practice, reducing the lead time on clinical trials. It's a case study by Roche, and it's an honor to have your audience here today. Thanks for joining. Well, Roche is a Swiss company, a multinational healthcare company that operates worldwide under two divisions, pharmaceuticals and diagnostics. The company headquarters are in Basel, and Roche is the largest pharmaceutical company in the world and the leading provider of cancer treatment globally. Lean Institute Brazil had the privilege of being invited to support Roche in Brazil and Peru. And we are honored to share with you some of the things that we learned together. And during the early pandemic days, Roche realized the need to rethink one of their core activities, the clinical trials. The purpose of this initiative was to reduce the time and the effort to launch new drugs by redesigning the way the work was organized and improve the management system. And they achieved very promising results. Today, we have here with us the key leaders in charge of accomplishing this challenge. We have Andrea Flores, Compliance Process Training and System Management from Roche Peru. We have Roberto Carrasco, the country head from Roche Peru. And we have Ludmila Xavier, Compliance Process Training and System Manager at Roche Brazil. Andrea, Roberto, and Ludmila, thank you very much for your participation. This stage is yours.
Thank you, Flávio. Thank you very much. And indeed, the pandemic made it visible to us and to the world that the participation in clinical trial is critical to the development of new innovative treatments against different conditions. And after so many years working in this area, I guess it has never been so easy to explain what we do finally. So I will start this presentation by sharing with you the context we were in. Roche globally had already started a big transformation, and the Roche Pharma Vision 2030 is to provide 3 to 5 times more patient benefit at half cost society. And closing in to product development, the aim is to increase the investment in research and development and to double the number of projects within 5 years. Roche and Peru are core countries when it comes to conducting clinical trials, whose number were rapidly increasing, and we were already feeling the impact between 2019 and 2020. However, with the highly complex and unpredictable regulatory system in some of our Latin countries, the perception of heavy workload combined with the restriction to continue with new hires at the same pace of recent years made our current way of working completely unsustainable. So, as a response to the need to help Latin to reach the same pace as the rest of the world, we needed to design a new management system with the vision of providing the 3 to 5 times more benefits to patients. Otherwise, there would not be twice as many projects and we would leave Latin patients behind. So in this context, we took on the difficult task of reducing the lead time of our process to ensure we don't stay behind and miss any more opportunities resulting from these studies. So by starting our lean transformation journey, we managed to increase our productivity using lean thinking. So let me share some of our main achievements during this journey. The main impact we were able to see, even with only 6 months from our start, was the confirmation that we are on the right track. 6 months into the project, we managed to increase the number of the trials with no extra resources, and our productivity increased by 25% and is still increasing. This is not only good for us business, showing that we are aligned with BT and PharmaVision, but also represents a greater contribution to Latin countries and the society, meaning more access to medications to more patients. Coached by the team of Lean coaches from Lean Institute Brazil, we started our Lean transformation journey. And besides the increase on the productivity, we also managed to anticipate the initial submission timelines. And also, we now have shorter lead times and more efficiency in key processes. One of the clinical trials that showed excellent result was the K3 study. This was our pilot study, and the activation time was 133 days, well below the target we had set at the beginning of the project, which was 155. These results surprised the global Roche team because they were similar to those numbers observed in countries with shorter approval timelines, for example, US and some EU countries. This was something unthinkable in Brazil. More than that, we managed to make the country the first one to file submission for this trial and one of the first countries to start recruiting participants to this trial. A truly impressive result. We also have some qualitative results. We have a new management system that relies on daily management and visual management to support our decision making and also accelerate the overall process. By changing the siloed structure, which were making us to work together, but in a disjoint way, we also achieved a greater levels of experience and solution sharing. The result of all of these is a cultural and behavioral change of the people involved in the process who felt empowered and started to implement improvements beyond the discussions of the individual silos. This way, we reduce times and increase productivity of problematic tasks, leveraging the discussions resulting from the daily management to establish a more systemic thinking. And now I will pass it over to Andrea.
Thank you, Ludmila. So, what we do? Well, starting with Brazil, as Ludmila mentioned, we work with the Lean Institute from Brazil, and approximately for 6 months each country, starting with a kickoff, and then, of course, really hard work, and then our final handshake to reflect, have some reflections. After Brazil shared with us their examples and the results, we were quite enthusiastic to follow the same path. So, with the help of the Lean Institute of Brazil, we started our same way in Peru. How do we do it? In these next two slides, I will share with you how was our travel, how are the steps that we follow. We may focus on this. We divide the work as on three phases. The first phase was starting by creating, designing, plasming, like drawing all where were we. So the current state, making an analysis, identifying our points. I may say that when the A3 thinking was introduced, at the beginning it was quite difficult to understand why we should do that thing exactly in that way, but it helped us to understand what we were facing. Then the second phase was to combine lean thinking and agile. That we as a company we figure out and understand that the beginning agile was the way that we want to follow, but we kind of felt that something was missing. So lean philosophy came to us to figure out how these two books were really combined and have great results. And explaining and applying our 4 times identifying 4 types of problem, it make us to have short cycles that give us quite good results from the very beginning. And then we have the phase of introducing a different way to manage the daily management, visual management, that experience with us, that make us experience the results that we were talking about. In the next slide, you can see the path that we follow. Despite of this graphic, this was not a linear travel. Many times it make us questions why we were doing this, how do we need to follow these exactly steps, but all this makes sense when we started to see how the team was transforming the way they were thinking, and we realized that our problems were our treasures. And with setting our objectives, then as I mentioned before, we need to figure out where we were stand, and we needed to draw our current state with value mapping stream, of course, and start analyzing what the problems we have in our face were telling to us, uh, then designing our future state, and then all Kaizen take place in a very very lovely way to feel. There were no limits to dream about it, and of course we need to keep this going with the continual improvement and making the PDCA cycles. And as I mentioned before, we have to apply our A3 thinking for both countries. How our A3 paper to figure out, as I say, what where were our situation and where were the place we want to go. So uh, after many versions, we have these two good results that guide us for us to make it the way that we needed to talk, to what the way that we needed to walk together. And we started the pandemic, so I want to tell that no distance is a barrier for this. No, working in a remotely way was not was always kind of challenging, but at the same way was always easy. We were in the same page. We were like with the same objective, and not even language was a barrier because we work in Portuñol for for Peru and Brazil, and it was also a good experience. I want to tell you that the remote was not a barrier for us. Maybe it was challenging, but not a barrier. And to share with you some reflections, uh, I want to we have we have of as well as learnings, we have also challenges to face. But talking about the learnings, the leadership support was a clue for this project. The change could not come from the workers through the leaders or in a different. We need to change every as a team, everyone. So the leadership support was a learning for us. Also, a learning is the connection that we found between the lean philosophy and the agile thinking. Doing, of course, as I mentioned, we knew that agile was in what we needed to follow, but we didn't know how. So lean philosophy was there to connect everything. The continuous improvement is now part of our routine. We're not setting up things, we're not conforming what we have. So we're always looking for something else. Despite it is a little thing or a huge one, we're kind of following our continuous improve path. The other thing, as I mentioned before, remote work was not a barrier. The pandemic made us realize that no distance is far apart from where we're going to go, and the engagement of the whole team was really important as well. The change cannot came from one way. As a challenge, I can say that the daily managed implementation for us, the first thing after the Lean coaches explained to us that the daily management was needed, the first thing that came to our minds was another meeting. But we realized that that was far from that concept. Daily management is not is for us a very good implementation tool that
Mhm.
we need to put in practice with more frequency. And then we ask what we didn't do it before because it really solved things with came in with great results. The other thing is conducted meeting different styles. We didn't have to focus in the traditional ones when one person only leads and the other are listening in a passive way. The maintain of the cadence is also a challenge to have the enthusiasm as well as the beginning, and the way that exposing the problems and ask for help was a challenge at the beginning. But I think that nowadays people are not worried about to expose their problems and how they are going to feel by saying they have a problem when they are responsible of it. Lean philosophies show us that the one thing is problems, a different thing are people. So all are here to collaborate with each other. And the other challenge was to explore the use of indicator and KPIs. That we didn't do that with frequency, so we didn't understand how they were going to collaborate with us. But as well as learning some challenge, I think that Lean methodology was here to let us know that problems are there, not to be solved, but to be understand.
And last but not least, here are the current and next steps from our journey. So the steps made along with Lean Institute Brazil ended, but since then, we used the lessons learned to inform the plans, strategic decisions in 2021, and we will do the same for 2022. We now have a management board 2.0 showing that continuous improvement is happening. New objectives derived from the daily management meetings, and we have just started a second big review cycle. Continuous improvement is now part of our routine. We have 4-hour weekly sessions fully dedicated to process review, and the delivery time continues to be part of the team's agenda. This is a recurring meeting to acknowledge the progress, share learnings, and celebrate successes during this journey. This was also considered an idea worth spreading. Our case was shared internally at Roche in a global forum called PDG Talks, helping us to increase the visibility of what we are doing in LATAM and also to put us in a leading position when it comes to our company transformation. Moreover, we were challenged by Carrie Macy, our global head, to expand the Lean transformation across the company. So we have just kicked off our global Lean community of practice, which is one of our members. And finally, this is what Karen shared with us about our transformation. Our vision is to create clinical trials that are more patient-friendly, which we believe will allow us to bring better medicines to patients faster and more efficiently. To do that, we are redefining how we work, putting our people at the center and asking them not to only execute within the existing system, but to shape the system itself. The Lean transformation in Brazil and Peru are leading the way in defining how we can do this, giving our talent the tools they need to succeed in this new environment. It is a shining light towards the future for our organization. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Ludmila. Thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Roberto. I would like to invite the participants to send their questions so we can put the questions for you. I think we have the first question here. It's a question regarding the time frame of the implementation of your future state. How long did it take to start seeing the future state and implementing it?
In Brazil, we took about, I would say, 4 months. The first 3 months were more dedicated to stabilize our current processes and resolve some of root causes that we had for some things that were systemic problems. And then we were able to start looking at our casings and starting looking and implementing actions for the future to be able to give these small steps towards our future state.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So there's one more here. What KPIs did you use? In what ways are the measures helpful? I think there's another question here regarding the KPIs. So I think it's a topic of interest. I would like to explore a little bit more, if possible, please.
Well, in Brazil, I can say that in the beginning it was very hard for us to start talking about indicators and KPIs. It was not something that was embedded in our routine. But once we started to look for or to implement the experiments to improve our current processes, we understood the importance of the indicators, and then we tried different ones to understand what we needed to check to make sure that we were going in the right way. So at the end, we now have we have more robust dashboards and analysis where we can see more general information like the number of the trials that we have, in which phase, the lead time that we are taking for each particular phase of the study. And also we are checking some other ones to make sure that we are also being able to maintain the improvements that we made during this journey. So, for example, when we are speaking about the anticipation of submission of our dossiers to regulatory and agency and ethics committee, we now we know that the percentage of our trials that we are meeting our lead time, the desired lead time, and if you're not meeting them, we are able to stop and ask the questions to understand what else we need to do to continue this improvement process. So for our key processes, this was our challenge during this journey, and to also understand the key ones that would make sense to keep an eye on. And interestingly, also we understood that the ones that were more in red were giving more insights to us than the ones that we had chosen that was all in green. So the green ones was not being very helpful. So we also learned to choose the ones that are more in red. So we could also stop and make deeper talks.
Perfect. Great. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There's another question here, very interesting, from our friend Claudio. If you could start again, all over, what would you do differently? It's a very interesting question.
Hmm. So
Maybe I can take that one, Flavio, because
Please, Roberto,
and
go ahead.
then Andrea. You know, I would start before. You know, I really think that now and seeing how this entire process has led the people into a mood of, continuous progressing into a better way of working. This is really something we would start before. And I am sure that with all the gain that we already have, the teams will continue moving, in a different way with a different mindset, and learning from every error and every success we do have. So yeah, that would be my answer, and I'm sure that Ludmila and Andrea would have other thinkings.
not others, but I think that we're in the same page. I truly believe that Lean philosophy make a difference in our teams, not just applying concepts or using tools, but then working in a way of not feeling guilty every time we fail. We use errors to understand. So yeah, starting before will be great.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Andrea, and thanks, Roberto. I think we have time for more questions here. Great. From Juan Ortiz, what is the biggest challenge when you start a lean transformation and how to approach it? That's a very broad question. I'd like you to explore a little bit more. What is the biggest challenge when you start a lean transformation, especially in an environment that is dealing with knowledge work that is related with your case? So, how do you see that?
You-
Um, please go ahead.
as a, I think that in all transformation, communication is a clue. You need to have all the team communicated and what's going on, where you're going to, and what are the results. And the other thing that may help with maybe quite linked with communication is to have all the team involved. I think that as a leaders, we need to realize we need to focus on what people are not involved to approaching them and in trying to involve it more. Yeah, those things. Maybe Lumira have something to add.
Yes, I'm thinking here. When we started all the discussion with the Lean Institute, we understand how big the project could look like. And this sounded quite overwhelming to the whole team. So we also had to talk a lot about it and also make the decision to start very small. So instead of involving a lot of people, we started with like 5 people, going into understanding deeply what we needed to be done. And during the journey, we were able to also invite other people to join and also to participate in the project. At the end, we started with 5, but we were able to impact the 80 people that we have in the department, and but in a more organic way. So because in the initial, before even the kickoff, we were already feeling the people saying, no, this is another big project that we will do and we will not see the results, or in few months we will not remember about its existence. So this was also the way that we managed this. So also starting small.
Great, great. That's a very important hint
Hmm.
for the ones who are getting started. There's time for another question here. After creating the future state, what is your next step? Are you thinking about process automation?
Well, about once we created the future state, there was two things that were happening simultaneously. We were also reviewing and addressing root causes for the problems that we had already, and we had to um, stabilize the process before talking about improvements, next steps.
Mhm.
So the two things were happening in parallel. So we also had to, like, I would say, delay a little bit the implementation of some of actions to make sure that we had some process more standardized before talking about next steps.
Mhm.
Automation came was important in some of the discussions, but I guess we were one step behind. We noticed that we still had to make a lot of improvements in eliminating wastes from our system, especially when it comes to waiting times. So this was something that very early in the process we were able to see big steps by removing and decreasing waiting times, and also to reviewing our value stream map and change the order of seeing things. And now that once we have this everything more stabilized, we saw during this year that automation is now more often being mentioned in our discussions. But I guess in the first 6 months, I would say even more, maybe 8 to 10 months, the main focus was really to redesigning our process and eliminating wastes.
And maybe
Great.
something to add here, Flavio, is that this is
Yes.
not only automation, it's also about changing our mindset. And I think that is the most important about Lean in the application, both in Peru and Brazil. And
Mhm.
evidently, to automate would be a final step or something that we would like to, visualize in the future. But at this moment, what we have made with the change of mindset with our people is truly powerful in the resolution of the challenges we have uh, uh, seen in our operations. So I
Mhm.
think that's really the most important change in Lean during all these times.
Because sometimes people, the automation is the final solution for every problems, and
And
we don't
it's not
realize that the problem is pretty much in the other way, in the other side of the
Yeah.
equation. Thank you
totally.
very much, Roberto. Thank you very much. There's time for one more. I think it's the last question, and I'd like to each one of you can like give a very quick answer. How to face the resistance to change? And if you have the answer, please let me know. But please, Roberto, Ludmila, and Andrea, if you can just explore a little bit, how did you face it, this challenge?
Maybe with results. Lean
Great,
method with
like
lean applying lean, it makes us figure out and have results very soon, very quickly. And I think that when other people, the resistance one, see the results that we are having, and something change, something change in their
perfect,
minds.
perfect, Andrea. Thanks. That's very smart answer. Roberto would like to add something. Ludmila, we're almost close to the end here.
Very briefly, just a quote from the great Winston Churchill: "The success is not final, the failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my friends. Ludmila would like to add something. Just final words.
No, that's I guess pretty much the same what they have said. What really helped was to have this recurrent meeting where we acknowledge this small steps, celebrate the success, share the learnings and the failures also. It really is helping us to show to the team what is being done and it's worth doing. So it is really helping, and I guess this is and keep the cadence, right? So keeping doing these small things is also helping us to change the mindset and all this resistance that we are still facing. Let's say we're still facing sometimes, but it really helps.
Perfect. Thanks, my friends from Roche, from Brazil, from Peru. It was an honor to have your presence here. Thanks for sharing the things that you learned. And I think now the whole world knows about what you're doing. Thank you very much, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Rosh.